What is up, everybody? Welcome to Happy Hour at Happy Hour. We have got game one of the Eastern Conference Finals, the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks about to start. Hawks and Bucks, it's a very hard combination of names to say together very quickly. And I've always thought that when these teams play, it is Hawks, Bucks. That's coming up tonight. First, let's get right into it, though. Dunny, last night, it's a great game when the game is named, gets a name the day after. And DeAndre Ayton with the Valley Oop 104-103 Suns win in a game that took over what felt like 2 hours to finish the last 2 minutes. Shout out Scott Foster keeping that game going, keeping all the, just trying to suck in all the West Coast viewers coming in late, maybe some people getting late dinners. They got to see the whole ending of a basketball game. It worked out for them. But Dunny, how did you feel this morning looking at that score, how that game played out last night, and just what we're looking for going forward in the series?
Yeah, I mean, if you were those fans getting a late dinner and coming back to that, if you were Suns fans, you were very excited just because it was great that the last play of that game, the game-winning shot by DeAndre Ayton was absolutely the highlight of the game, that inbounds dunk. And, I got to give credit to my guy, Jay Crowder, too, because that was as perfect of an inbounds pass as you can make. I remember back to his Boston Celtics days, Brad Stevens used him a bunch for inbounding. That was basically his go-to role. If he was on the court, that's what Jay Crowder did. But yeah, it was a great game. I think me, you, and Ty B, I think we all said we thought it was going to be a competitive one. Maybe Ty B was a little on the Clipper side that he thought they could play with it. But no, I think we all anticipated that. The only thing that I was a little shocked about is Devin Booker had a bit of a quiet game. And some of that was due to Pat Bev headbutting him and his nose swelling up like a potato. But it was a great game. I don't see the rest of the series being anything else but how we saw games 1 and 2 go in the Valley. Very competitive, some scoring bursts here and there. Trash talking. I mean, this series kind of has it all. I'm just a little worried about the Clippers going down 2-0, CP3 coming back next game, and still don't really know the whereabouts of Kawhi's injury. And it just really seems like a missed opportunity for the Clippers last night. As great of a game as it was, and I don't think they can be all that upset. They definitely are in a scary situation now.
Yeah, so what are we thinking about? Do you feel like how confident are you in a Kawhi return? Like, because we'd never hear you. The thing with him is you'd never have any inkling until it happens. So do you, like, in your gut, just what do you think? Does Kawhi come back, even if it's not game 3? Like, does he come back at some point in this series if they're still in dire straits to kind of tough it out, like we saw Harden do last series with the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah. I think he does come back. I just don't know why we wouldn't have heard by now if he's not going to be ruled out for the entire series. I get, being optimistic and all that, but it is the Western Conference Finals. These type of things the league is usually on top of, or something gets leaked out and, someone has it. Some person with a blue check mark next to their name has some sort of scoop on this. But other than, we kind of heard earlier in the week that he may be returning to the series at some point. Other than that, we haven't heard much more. So I feel like if he wasn't going to return,
quiet with him.
Right. So I feel like if he wasn't going to return, we may have heard something more. Mm-hmm. But I do personally.
It's like reverse psychology. It's like, because we haven't heard anything, that actually makes us think that he's fooling us and gonna come back. Like he's like got us doing all these mental gymnastics every day.
Yeah. In my personal opinion and my personal thought, I think he will be back at some point. Like you said, even if it's not game 3, I think he comes back. I think it should be game 3 if he's ready, even if he's, kind of in a James Harden situation like last series with the Nets where he clearly wasn't 100%, but can come back, especially because Kawhi is kind of a robot. So it doesn't really matter if he's 80%. As long as he's charged up, he's gonna go out there and play like Kawhi. And they need him. They really do. They need someone to put the clamps on D Book. Me and you were talking about it before we even came on here. If Devin Booker's in a mask next game, you know what those superstars do when they put that mask on.
Don't put that mask on, D-Book.
You're like Batman.
Series is over.
Like real life superhero for the first time, and everyone just gets buckets when they have that mask on. You do not want to put it on an exceptional scorer like D-Book because he will have another massive game, and they need someone like the Claw to shut down masked Book.
That's facts, and that's the thing is, like you mentioned earlier, Book, didn't have a great game too. It wasn't the Booker show like it was in game one. So the fact that he didn't have it means, and the odds that have shown in this playoffs is that it's coming back game 3 with a vengeance for Book. So they need all the help they can get. Before we move on from this game, one thing, I think Phoenix the team of destiny vibes, we've been talking about them all year. That kind of like play that we're going to see, like that's going to be in the highlight reel for NBA all the next like 3 years of our lives. How crazy that play was, and just the reaction from Ayton and everything. But we have to bring it up. He's been a popular topic on this podcast since his inception. It's just like it was a rough moment. Mind you, it looked good. It really did. Him and Booker, Paul George had a great drive to the basket, like an amazing drive, Euro step to the finish, got ahead. Booker came down, hit a shot at the elbow, went back up by 1. Paul came back down and hit another like mid-range jumper. So it was a really good back and forth. Then that was when the Pat Bev steal off of Booker came. And then Paul George gets fouled and goes to the line. And yeah. It's just, I really wish it didn't happen, but it's just one of those moments where it's so impossible to ignore that happened in that moment when the way the game turns out. And I don't know. It just, maybe that's the biggest reason that Kawhi needs to come back, to be honest. Yeah.
The more you look at it, the more he's just definitely to blame for the loss last night. Like it's the two big free throws down the stretch is what's eye opening, but he's shot 5 for 10 from the line for the night. So 50%. You're closing in on Ben Simmons numbers from the line there. 1 of 8 from 3-point. That's 12.5%. I mean, whether he needs to get better looks, he needs to get his legs more in his shot, he needs to set his feet, whatever. No Kawhi, as you mentioned, PG can't be doing this. So, as great as he has stepped up, for 3.5 games of basketball, the second half of last night is, it's deserving to come back and call him playoff P again, because it's just a collapse where you could easily have a win if you just hit 1-2 of those free throws there. Any of them. It doesn't have to even be the ones late in the game, even though those are the ones, that get the fingers pointed at, or one of those 3-point shots that you shot an atrocious percent at when you're a pretty damn good shooter. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I honestly feel for him at this point, but
yeah, for real.
We're kind of back to square one with Paul George. I would anticipate a big game 3 from him, because that's kind of the way it's been going with him in these playoffs. Like when he hits the lowest of low, he does come back and have like a 37-point game or what have you. But yeah, playoff P definitely alive and well last night.
And yeah, I think it's fair, because I think anybody in that spot misses 2 free throws the next day is getting extremely like it's such a crucial part of the game. It just so happens that it's Paul George again in that spot, and it's just like we were hoping. Everybody's getting so excited. We're trying to hype him up. He's been played well at the end of that Jazz series, but we shouldn't. That was our fault for trusting the Utah Jazz in general. All right, so Dunny, last night the draft lottery also happened before that crazy game. Detroit Pistons, the number 1 overall pick. Behind them, Houston at 2, Cleveland 3, Toronto 4, Orlando 5 to round out the top 5. Oklahoma State at 6, Golden State has 2 picks in there, 7 and 14. Orlando has 2 top 10 picks. Dunny, just quick before we move on to previewing the game, what potential landing spot for a favorite prospect of yours are you most excited about with the way the card kind of laid out from the lottery last night?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit last night when we were talking about it. I don't know. This is almost like a reach, like just kind of having a galaxy brain about it a little bit. But if Evan Mobley is to slip, because, we even talked about it. I see Cade Cunningham going 1. He said it came out last night that he only plans to see Detroit before the draft. So that's almost a lock that Cade's going to the Pistons there. And then Houston, we talked about maybe a Jalen Green for them. And then Cleveland, really not sure. I forget who you said you would like to see go to Cleveland.
I'm so back and forth on what's going on with Cleveland right now. I don't. There's potential. There was a lot of NBA Twitter talk for the Cavs last night about them moving the pick too for a lot of different things. So Cleveland is in an interesting spot there at 3. I would love a Jalen Green, or if Mobley drops there, I think he might just be too good to pass up at 3 even, and they'll figure it out afterwards.
Yeah, so that was my thing. My galaxy brain is that Mobley somehow slips to 6, and we have an SGA Mobley combo in Oklahoma City. Because I don't know why. I just like thinking about it last night. Draft lottery got my brain cooking. I just somehow see those guys meshing and playing really well together. So that's kind of what I see. I also am just excited to see where Suggs and Davion Mitchell go, because those are a couple of my favorite guys to watch in college basketball last year, especially down the stretch. I mean, they're on those 2 unbelievable squads that we saw all season long in college hoops. And yeah, we saw, me and you actually, we saw a couple of those rumors of Davion Mitchell going to the Warriors. And that's best case scenario for him. That's best case scenario for the team. You get a gamer, you get a guy who would just absolutely feed off energy, like Steph Curry's, get a chance to play with. Mitchell is going to be the steal of the draft. I agree, Stevie. Get a guy, play alongside a returning Klay Thompson. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we saw him return to the court. I think that would be a really cool fit. But you also mentioned Scotty Barnes is another one I want to keep an eye out for. He didn't really have the season I think he wanted to have, as far as the way it ended for him. And in mocks, I'm seeing him going around this 6-7 spot too. So OKC and Golden State for me, that's kind of the part of the draft where I'm interested, because after, the top 3-4 guys, I think there's still a whole lot of value in this draft, but no one really knows where they're going to fall at this point.
Yeah, that is the most interesting spot, because there's a lot of potential movement around there too. Golden State has 2 picks. Orlando has 2 picks. Those are both teams that could want to move those picks either to package up with, like, that's what I was talking about with Cleveland. Like Orlando, if the Cavs want to put their rebuild back a couple more years and they're changing it up with Sexton and looking a different direction, isn't Orlando giving you 5 and 8 for 3 kind of like a perfect move when you don't have centerpieces around you? Something like that. I wonder if Golden State's going to keep that pick or package it with guys to try to go get a star. I mean, this is a team that wants to win now too.
Yeah.
I saw the Athletics mock today had Davion Mitchell down to Indiana at 13, and that would be a crazy snag for Indiana to put him with Sabonis if he would be able to drop that way. There's apparently some decent. I'm obviously, neither of us are up as much on like European prospects. I feel like when they come in, it's like you study them during draft time, and I wasn't aware that there was this many guys in the top 15. But I think now that the world's been opening back up, and there's been a couple more guys that have jumped in from, like, I saw a guy from Real Madrid up there in the top 10 too. And it just depends on, like, these teams all value some of those guys differently. So I think that has even made the back half of the lottery really interesting this year, because there's a lot of good talent, but there's a clear, like, cutoff point where it's going to be like a lot of things that I've seen about this draft is the top 10 is going to be great, and then like 20 to 30 is going to be great because it's going to be guys that aren't as much of projects, but that can go and fill roles right away. And we've seen teams be able to hit on some of those guys, and it changed shit up for them. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see a guy like, Giannis Antetokounmpo was picked number 14 in the draft, and that's 15. I messed that up. I don't remember what Giannis was picked.
My Boston Celtics decided to take Kelly Olynyk before him that
year. Listen, no one knew, bro. No one knew. That was,
to be fair, Kelly Olynyk was an absolute wagon at Gonzaga, but
he was, bro. Kelly Olynyk was the quintessential Celtic. He was perfect for that team. He might have ruined the chance for the Cavs to win an NBA title, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive him for that. But he was perfect for the Celtics. I hope I'm not. You know me, I'm not a very spiteful sports fan to begin with.
No,
but in Cleveland, Ohio, Kelly Olynyk is public enemy number at least 3. Number 3.
Not a great moment.
It wasn't great. But anyways, so that the original transition was trying to get into this Bucks-Hawks game tonight. We got tip in, I'm assuming it's probably 8:45 with a TNT start. TNT always wants to get the 15 minutes of Chuck and Chat, which you can't. I don't complain. Like, give me 30 minutes. They could be the one team that would trick me like for a 30-minute early start, and I'd be happy about it. But what are you thinking going into this series? Like, it's the consensus I've got the last couple of days is that Hawks, nice story. It's been fun to watch, but the Bucks are over the hump now and just looking to roll into the finals. Do you think that it's that kind of series right here, or the Hawks can be able to put up a fight?
I think the Hawks will put up a fight. I have, I've fallen victim to this. A lot of other people have. I'm kind of done doubting this team. And that doesn't mean I'm saying they're going to outright win this series, but it's the Bucks series to lose. I mean, they could come in here and have a head of steam and really just show the youth of the Atlanta Hawks. Giannis could be, look, I'm the back-to-back MVP. I got scorers around me. I got an unbelievable defensive point guard in Drew Holiday who can lock down this Trae Young guy, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. Because Trae Young has just been so cold cold by that I mean being a bad dude, like ice cold Trae is what they call him, exactly. But when he does go literally cold and is shooting poorly, he gets his teammates involved at the same rate he does when he's hot. Mm-hmm. So and this Hawks team has kind of just had a step up mentality. I mean, Cam Reddish hasn't been on the court. DeAndre Hunter out for season. Like, he was a guy who was playing valuable minutes for this team. He was great against Julius Randle in the Knicks series. It just seems like they have the guys to do it. Kevin Huerter, we saw, who just exploded in Game 7 against the 76ers, probably the best game of his career. I just I don't know if this is a series where we're going to see the Hawks just lay down and die, as much as I can see why people think that the Bucks could just roll all over this Hawks team. I don't see that happening. I also think it's very important the Bucks get a win tonight if they do want to have an easy time with this series, because the Hawks aren't afraid to steal one on the road, and the last 2 series they had got the first game on the road and have just used it for just so much momentum. Trae Young embracing the villain role, whatever they need, they're juicing up about it.
Yeah, man. It's interesting to me because the Bucks have earned a level of trust now that I don't know if they deserved, because really they should be up hot. If it doesn't for injuries for the Nets, they really should be up out of here like already. So I still don't know if I fully trust them in these like big game scenarios yet. I don't know if I feel like it now if what you're telling me is that they're not going to get pushed enough, like if that's the argument against it, that they're just going to be too overpowering, I guess that's one thing. But like you said, why are we going to keep doubting this team when they've shown that they can weaponize themselves multiple ways every single game, right? Like when Trey doesn't have it going, he can get somebody else going. And yes, the Bucks are a better defensive team that they've had to play yet, but it's not like the Bucks are a juggernaut. Like they're just not. They're not a juggernaut defensive team. We've seen that in the first two series. And I think that I don't know. I just don't think the Bucks are as much of a sure thing. And I understand the narrative that people want to say that it's them like getting over the hump and they should be able to roll. But I think that's disrespecting what this Hawks team has showed us that they've been able to do. And the way they were able to match up with Philly, like they had no business being in that series really with Philly when you look at it on paper, just like it is right now. And for the same reasons, like they couldn't like Capella is going to give Giannis trouble in the paint. He's a great defensive center. And that's what one of the things I heard was they don't have an answer for Giannis. It's like, dude, Clint Capella has been grinding. If Blake Griffin can get in his way and stay with him, John Collins is going to be able to at least get his body in front and make life more difficult for him. Go ahead.
Well, just what I've learned from watching Giannis in the playoffs the past, however many years at this point, I pay a lot more attention when it's my Celtics, but I saw it with the Miami Heat last year. It's not one guy who stops Giannis. It never has been, and it never will be. Marcus Smart's great at taking charges on Giannis when the Celtics play the Bucks, but it's always a group effort. We have thrown Semi Ojeleye at him like Semi Ojeleye was literally called the Giannis stopper at one point. Like that, it's a team effort. Al Horford was thrown at him years ago when he was on our team. Of course, he's back now. We love Big Al, but it's a group effort. And Capella and John Collins are just two names that they can throw at him. I would be surprised if we don't see a lot of Solomon Hill in this series. As much as, his offensive game is pretty much non-existent, he's a big, long, strong wing, and he's definitely going to be a body, at the very least, to just burn fouls against Giannis. I just think that's the way it is. It's never going to be one guy to stop Giannis. That's outrageous. Just like they didn't have one guy to stop Embiid last series, but where are they? They're home. And the Hawks are in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, they'll figure it out, man. If they could contain Embiid enough, I'm not saying Giannis isn't going to get his. I'm sure he will some games, but I don't think the Bucks having Giannis is enough to say that they just run away with this series.
No, I agree. I think that I'm done doubting Trae Young.
Yeah,
I think that I've given up on that. And this team, I just think that what we've seen from this team is that they're versatile enough for a lot of different matchups. I also want to run this by you. This is as we wrap up here. Is it a Coach Bud revenge series or is it a Hawks revenge series? Now, Coach Bud, the last time the Hawks were in the Eastern Conference Finals, our boy Mike Budenholzer was down there in the ATL coaching those boys up to getting smacked up by LeBron James, swept 4-0. That was a great series, I'm not going to lie. But is it a Coach Bud or Hawks? Because he flamed out with the Hawks, but they did fire him. So what are we thinking here? I'm leaning towards Hawks revenge series. I feel like this is a come up for the Hawks, but that's just I can't put it with Coach Bud.
Yeah, I don't know. This is tough because I think it's perfect to say how you said earlier that the Suns are the team of destiny in the West, and it seems like they're just the team of destiny overall. Like I deep down in my heart, I want the Suns to win the championship. I kind of feel like in the Eastern Conference here, I'm starting to believe this Atlanta Hawks team is the team of destiny just a little bit. Of course, it's early. They haven't even played a game in the Eastern Conference Finals yet. It starts tonight. I don't know. I think if I'm just picturing in my head like this Atlanta Hawks team with Trae Young and I see on the other side Coach Bud's just resting frowning face, I'm a little more motivated by the Hawks if I do that. So I don't know. I think if anyone's going to get their revenge, if you look at it like that, it could be the Hawks. But ultimately, I think the Bucks will win this series, but I think it will be another 1-7, Jake. I really do. I think we'll see a hard fought series. I don't think the Bucks will be ready tonight.
So you got the Hawks tonight?
Yeah, I just talked myself into it. They just been doing it. They win on the road in game one. They kind of everyone takes them lightly. I think everyone thinks that Trae Young's small, and I just he is small, but that dude's a bucket. He finds ways to get to the line the same way the rest of the superstars in this league do.
Trae Young
Definitely to cover the spread.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be shocked if they win.
+8. I love that. I think this is going to be a great game down to the wire. The money line was +300 for the Hawks, which is I just think it's crazy the way we've seen them play throughout the playoffs. Like I don't know. They've kept pretty much every game close, even when they've lost. I don't see a blowout happening tonight. Not with this Milwaukee team. This Milwaukee team goes on lapses. It's happened every single game in the playoffs at some point. They've gone on a lapse and let that whole series, Brooklyn. How many times did they go up early on Brooklyn and Brooklyn was able to fight back into that game? It was like 3 times last series. I don't trust their throttle, I guess.
A guy like Brook Lopez just isn't that valuable in this series also because you have, like we mentioned, the guys who are probably going to be slowing down Giannis are the same guys that like Clint Capella can, and I honestly believe this, can take Brook Lopez out of a game. Mm-hmm. Like I think we're going to see a lot more small ball from the Bucks this series than we did against the Nets, just because I legitimately think Capella will be a problem for Brook Lopez. My biggest prediction, and I wish I could put a prop on this somehow, I am expecting some big beef and maybe even a legit fight between John Collins and PJ Tucker in this series, because those two dudes have just kind of been the enforcers for their team during the playoffs. Couple of tough guys who don't hold back from the trash talk. PJ Tucker and John Collins, keep an eye out. I see those dudes going at it all series long.
I would love to see it. We've got tip-off here already. We're actually 3 minutes in. I just saw that. So we will wrap up here and go watch this game. We're both on the Hawks. Let's get it. It's $7-6. So good little start. Trae Young already 2 of 4, so shooting a lot. It's interesting. So yeah, let's get it. We'll wrap it up here. We'll see you all next time, and have a great night. Enjoy the game.